ragamuffin keep on rising to the top. Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamal skinny. Jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it right. Chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamal skinny.
Yes. What is up, everybody? Lots of familiar faces, or familiar names, rather, in the chat. Love to see it. Everybody seems super pumped about this one. It's going to be an extra special stream today. I'm assuming you already know why. Everybody, where are you coming in from today? Where are you watching from? I saw Portugal, Brazil. Big fan of Brazil. Before I bring our esteemed guest on today, I just want to give you a quick announcement about the next stream. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been doing a lot of live streams here on the channel recently, and they're always good fun. Lots of killer brands coming through, showing us exactly everything we need to know about their plugins, and it's just going to continue right through the rest of the year, of course. So if you're not subscribed and you haven't hit the bell, I feel like we shouldn't have to say this anymore, but you need to do that. Not only do we do great giveaways on all of these, but the information is invaluable about the products, obviously, but about music production in general. So if you're a fan of any of those things, subscribe and hit the bell. Next Thursday, I've got a live stream that I cannot tell you what it's about. It's actually something that's coming up that I can't talk about publicly yet, but I can tell you that next Thursday at 8 p.m. UK time, I'm going to be doing a live stream right here on the channel, and you all will want to be involved with that. So again, just one more reason to hit the bell and be subscribed. Now, today, we're talking to Moog, and it's actually pronounced Moog, and my guest will be able to confirm that with you, but the way he's been talking to me, it's always been Moog. There's just been confusion forever about the name. If it's a Moog or Moog, it's Moog, and I think maybe I came out swinging too hard on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but we're definitely going to get the confirmation today live on stream. Today we're going to be talking with Geert Bevin. That's not how you pronounce his name, but I would rather him tell you exactly how to do it than me butcher it. Garrett is the software engineering manager and software production manager at Moog for the Moogerfooger Effects VSTs that just came out, I think, late last week, I believe. I don't remember the exact date, but just very, very recently. And today on stream, he's going to be walking us through all of those great effects, talk a little bit about the history, where they came from, and what they can do in the modern DAW era. So with that, I'm going to bring on our guest. So join me in welcoming Garrett Bevin.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. So yes, Joshua, you're totally right. It's pronounced Moog.
Yes.
I pronounced it wrongly for the longest time. Like I'm from Europe, I'm from Belgium, and like part of my heritage is French, so I was saying Moog for many, many years until someone corrected me when I joined the company about 8 years ago. And yeah, but we're spreading the word.
We need to, I mean, literally any video that has to do with Moog, there's always inevitably a debate that rages on about the pronunciation of it. And you'll find like just the worst information about why it's one way or the other. I would be happy to know if you know why it's Moog and not Moog. But either way, if the people at Moog are calling it Moog, I think we can safely assume that's the way it's supposed to be said.
I honestly, I might be confusing like the theories in the history. But I remember is that is just how Bob pronounced his last name. So
there you go.
I mean, if Bob says Bob Moog, then
I think we should all say Moog. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Speaking of pronunciations and just how bad I am personally at them, how do you pronounce your name? I know I said it wrong, but...
Yeah, my name is Geert, Bevin.
Okay.
It's like a muscular exercise for non-Dutch or German-speaking folks. But yeah, getting used to all the different types of variations, and it's all good. Yeah.
Well, it's a great name, strong name. And why don't you tell the people a little bit about you, where you came from, maybe your education, a little bit about the history, and how you ended up at Moog, and what brought us to where we are today on this stream.
Love to do so. So yeah, as I said, I'm from Belgium, and I've been dabbling in software. People say software engineering, but I just see it as like a creative outlet. So I've been a musician and a coder since I was 10 years old, like almost 50 now. And for the longest time, I wanted to be a professional musician. So I went to school, like jazz school. I had like classical training in various musical instruments and music theory, and I had this idea that I would become a professional musician and just like code in my spare time. Until one day I realized that wasn't really working out that well. I was like playing on the street and in train stations just to be able to make it to the end of the month. Until like I was doing this promotional thing for a gig I had coming up, and the printer shop that I was at to do all of my printing stuff, posters, and it was still cassette tapes, inserts. They had a technical problem, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, hey, you know what? Maybe I should just flip this around and make the technical thing my job and get paid a decent salary, and then I can do music for fun. And that's sort of what happened. I think I was a little bit ahead of the times when I started doing the coding stuff. So I sort of rode the whole wave of when the internet came around and when everyone started doing interactive websites. And at one point, about I'm losing track now, but I think about 12 years ago, I kind of wanted to switch around and do technical stuff in the music production side. And I joined a company called Eigenlabs. They made this really crazy electronic instrument called the Eigenharp. You should look it up. It kind of looks like something that comes straight out of Star Wars. It's got 132 keys that can pivot in all type of dimensions. And they were sort of the head of the curve at what you can do with real-time electronic music production. joining there, I was really trying to find sounds that worked well with these instruments. And lo and behold, a little bit over 10 years ago, Moog came out with Animoog. And Animoog was designed for having fingers on your iPad that would express each individual sound and move it in various directions on your iPad, like using multi-touch. And that really aligned very well with that instrument that I was working on with that company. And so I reached out to Moog and it's like, I love what you're doing here, but if you could do this and this and this, then we could hook up together and we can actually make this controllable from the outside with this instrument. Anyway, long story short, it really clicked with Moog and they needed help. And I sort of joined them working on the apps. And ever since then, we've released a few. So we very recently, last year, we reimagined Animoog and made Animoog Z, which was really dear to my heart because it has a lot of the things that I wanted 10 years ago. And finally being able to revisit that and build that out with the team was just such an incredible and rewarding experience. And before that, we did the Mini Moog Model D app and the Model 15 app, all of which have been ported to macOS, sadly, not Windows. Doesn't mean it will never happen, but at the moment, that is not the case. Which brings us now to the Moogerfooger plugins, which are pure VST, AUV3, and AAX plugins that are available on Mac and on Windows, treated as first-class plugin citizens in all the DAWs that we could lay our hands on. And it's just been such an incredible experience going through this and sort of figuring out what we want to capture from the original effects, because they've been around for over 20 years. Like the industry has changed. We've got DAWs, we've got massive productions that people can do at home. We've got all types of different music styles and virtual instruments and real instruments that all have different levels and different timbres. And how do we make something that still preserves the heritage and that still preserves the exploratory nature of the original pedals, but make them useful in a full production, in a full DAW, where you might have 30 of them opened up and try to have them not step onto each other, and so that you can use them on the master bus, but you can also figure out a way to use them for individual instruments or for a sub bus or a group. So that was a really interesting product exercise, I'd say. So we went through, we tried to find an original Moogerfooger of each, or for some of them even several, which was interestingly not that easy. Some of them were missing. So some of the people at Moog still had some at home, so we had them bring them in, and then going through it and sort of getting the artist experience of what is a Moogerfooger? What does it mean to have that experience with these pedals? And then use all the DSP and the programming techniques that we learned over the years with the Model 15 and the Model D app, and use those as a stepping stone to actually build the plugins. And when I think back at it and I started reading through some of the original language, once we were working on the manuals, so the original language of the original manuals, I stumbled on this piece where it said the Moogerfoogers the original Moogerfoogers were created using building blocks of the original modular synthesizers. And I'm like, this is so wild, because we, in the plugin version here, we basically did something similar. We used the building blocks that we discovered while developing Model 15 and Mini Moog Model D, and used those to create the plugins and the pedals that are available now today. So sorry, maybe that was a little bit long. I kind of tend to get carried away, but yeah, I hope that was interesting.
No, very interesting. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I think the really the best way to do it is to jump in and let people see and hear these in action. Before we do that, though, both you and Moog have been gracious enough to allow us on stream today to give away an actual hardware unit from Moog. It's the Sub-Harmonicon. Mm-hmm. And just to let everybody in the chat know, just like we do on all of our live streams, the only thing you need to do to enter to win this is be active and positive in the chat. It's that simple. We're going to pick a winner of that, and some people are going to win the Moogerfoogers plugins. But before we jump in to check these out in action, can you give us a little bit of just what the Sub-Harmonicon is and what it's capable of?
Yeah, Sub-Harmonicon is part of our Mother ecosystem. So we have the Mother 32, the DFAM. The Sub-Harmonicon is the latest full-sized entry into there. We also have the Mavis that you can combine with the Mother ecosystem, but it's like a smaller form factor. The Sub-Harmonicon basically allows you to explore poly stuff, like polyrhythms, polyharmonic relationships, and set it up in such a way so that you can explore what the relationships are between these ever-moving pieces of sound that are set on a pattern. And as they shift through different like rhythmical relationships, you'll start discovering like rhythmical textures that you've not like known of before, or harmonical textures that you weren't aware of. It's a really, really fun playground to get inspired, and also to build final, like obviously pieces with. But what I like the most about it is that exploration nature, where you can just sit down with it and just go on this journey of hands-on sound exploration in a pattern-based rhythmical and tonal sense, and then just get carried away and have these ideas that you wouldn't like naturally come up with.
Man, you should be in marketing. Forget engineering, man. I'm sold, man. Give it to me. What are we doing? I would highly recommend for people who have not heard it. I'm guessing most of the people here have a good sense of what it is. Check out Andrew Wong's video here on YouTube. He did a really fantastic, thorough walkthrough of it. It's really fantastic. We're going to give one away today. So this is insane. I'm really, really excited about it. Again, just be active and positive in the chat, and you'll be entered to win. And I think with that, if you don't mind, let's switch over to the desktop and start checking some of these plugins out.
Let's do it.
All right.
So what I have here is a Logic session, and I'm so glad and humbled that we have this. It was created specially for this live stream, for us, for everyone here, to explore some of the things that can be possible with the Moogerfooger plugins. So the artist that created this is called Lisa Belladonna, and let me show you how you can find out more about her. So she's got a Bandcamp, and she's such a prolific artist. Look at all these albums that she's brought out. And if you have any type of affinity towards synthesizer music that is using a lot of analog stuff, check her out. Like, she ticks all the boxes for me, and she's also like an amazing human being. If you ever get to see her live, she shreds on a synth like nobody's business. She'll be like, she's like the synth metal goddess to me.
Really great video content out there as well, on top of just the musical.
It's insane. And she did a show about a month ago during a synthesizer event, and I'd never seen a comment like that, but like, she was sharing her stories on Instagram, and someone like reposted her story and said like, the bass during this show was so intense that I lost a filling.
That's great.
Right? Like, well, when does that ever happen?
That person needs to be in marketing. I'm sorry.
So she's got this album here, the last one, like the first one, the latest one she did, Travelogue. She recorded in the last couple of months, and the Moogerfooger plugins are all over it.
Nice.
So she was traveling through the US. She had an SSL portable mixing desk with her. She had her Mac and then the Moogerfoogers, and she went to town and made this album, which sounds absolutely brilliant. And then as a sneak peek, this one is coming out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for Hypnosis. It's Lisa's upcoming album. And like all the others, I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Even that album art is pretty great.
It just transports you. I mean, this is what you want in a winter, right?
Yeah.
And a fireplace, a heart that warms you, and then listen to incredible music. What else do you want? And all recorded on a 4-channel tape. Like, she tries to set out in these ventures like, okay, what would it be if I limit myself with just a 4-channel tape recorder? If you want to figure out what that is, check it out tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. I'll check it out for sure.
So Lisa gifted us with this session, this Logic session that she created especially for us. She sent it over to me yesterday morning. She'd been working all night and part of the morning on it, and this is it. So I propose that we listen to it. It's a few minutes long. It's so we have basically two sections. The first section here is an epic synth piece, and then it goes into a few drones and pads and sequences that we can use later on to explore specific aspects of the plugins if we want to do so. So while this plays, I'm not going to talk so that we can all enjoy the music, but what I will do is sort of navigate through the Logic session. I'm not going to tweak sounds, but maybe if you follow along, you can already discover parts of what is making this work. So without any further ado, this is it. So that is that. Just magnificent.
Absolutely phenomenal.
So if you noticed, as you watched this session, how it's set up, she did us a huge favor in that she set up a few Moogerfoogers already on on one track and then on one bus. And then have a whole bunch of other ones that are sort of starting points to start exploring what could be possible on those individual tracks. But they're all currently bypassed. So at the moment, we have basically 5 Moogerfoogers active in this session, 3 on this Modder 32 track, and then 2 on the bus that is doing that solo section here. So before going on, I like to check in with the audience. If there's any questions already, anything you're wondering about, we can cover it, or I can just move on. It's up to you.
Absolutely. So everybody who's tuning in or is already tuned in, if you want to ask any questions of Garrett, just at Plugin Boutique with those questions, and we'll try to get them answered on the stream. We've got a couple if you want to just bang them out real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
Someone's asking about the additional features between the hardware and the VST versions.
That's such a great question, and thank you for asking that.
That's Owen Lim Gia June asked that. I should start saying usernames.
Thank you, Owen. I will dive in each individual plugin and highlight some of them. There is a common theme that I can talk about. Like, first of all, they're all stereo, which is kind of like a big deal because the original pedals were all mono, except for the phaser. If you would patch it with a phase reverted output, you could get a stereo image, but the main outputs were all mono, which doesn't really suit a lot of modern day productions, right? Secondly, is that we revised the gain staging and the headrooms, so that you can have 30 plugins in a session and that they all hold up, that they don't crush each other's to smithereens, and that there is enough breathing room to actually continuing working on your production. And as we then went through each individual plugin, we actually discovered some very interesting additional features, some highlights. Whenever there's envelope followers, the original pedals usually allowed you to only add a signal to whatever the envelope follower is controlling. Almost every plugin in the plugin version allows you to subtract, meaning that, for instance, you can close a filter as a signal comes in, as opposed to only just opening it, which offers up a whole new dimension of sounds that you can explore. And then other callouts are for the cluster flux and the delay. We have different tonalities there, where if you're not down with the very dark original Moogerfogger delay due to the bucket brigade topology, we can switch upwards and sort of opening the sound up a little bit. So yeah, that's a very quick overview. I'll dive into the individual ones once we get there.
Quick question about the, first of all, cluster flux. One of the best names. Moogerfogger is also an incredible name.
Yeah.
But the stereo thing, it's still possible to run it as mono, obviously, though, right?
Yes, it is.
That's if I remember correctly, that's a feature inside the advanced panel. Yeah.
Yeah, or just set it up as a mono track and it will behave as a mono track.
Perfect.
Mono plugin. Yeah. And you can also do mono to stereo if you want. So you can set it up with a mono input bus and a stereo output bus.
Okay. Another question from IAM607 is wondering, and this is a question that we get on every single one of these streams. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to do 2. One is going to be the Apple Silicon's native support, and the other one is CPU performance.
Yeah. So Apple Silicon is fully supported, from the get-go. Dare I say this is our heritage, because we come from the iOS Mac world. We jumped on Apple Silicon as soon as it was possible, and it's been an inherent part of this development. I'm an Apple Silicon user. I love what Apple has done with this chipset revision, or let's say completely new architecture and game changer. So we really support it. The second question was, sorry, I'm spacing on it now.
The CPU performance.
CPU performance. Obviously, this really depends on your computer, and it's getting really hard nowadays to evaluate CPU performance. But I don't know if you saw the CPU meter when I was playing this session. It had like all of this going on with 5 Moogerfoogers, and it was like the little meter was like barely moving further than the beginning here. If you are able to, and this is maybe a little technical lesson for some people, it surely surprised me when I first encountered it. We tend to think of CPUs as having one specific speed capability, that like this is the maximum speed a CPU can do, so CPU metering must obviously be a fraction of that. We moved away from that quite a few years ago when every CPU maker tries to optimize computers for battery usage, for power usage.
Right.
So most CPUs have power stepping, which basically upgrades and downgrades the speed of the CPU based on the load that the actual active task is putting on the CPU. So it might be that something that is popping up at 7% CPU currently has a CPU only running at half of capacity. So it gets really tricky to talk about CPU numbers nowadays. What I can say is that so the Moogerfoogers have, I'll get into that also, like a system to allow them to be interconnected over CV in any DAW. Like it's not limited to DAW infrastructure. In any DAW you use them, you'll be able to connect the Moogerfoogers together. To make that possible, we had to decide on a maximum limit of amount, like a number of Moogerfoogers that could connect over CV together. Doesn't mean you cannot use more than that, but that's the maximum number that can connect over CV, and that is 128. So we tested that, and we still didn't run out of CPU. I think one of our engineers went to 150 and started having some crackling on his Apple Silicon M1 Max. So yeah, I don't know if that gives you kind of.
That's just, listen, that's one of the best answers we've got. It's just a question that comes up literally every stream. It's good to get it out of the way early.
Yeah.
Another good question, if you want to pull up your first Moogerfooger you're going to show off, while you're doing that, I got a really good question from Jamal D&B, which is, how true to the hardware are these VSTs?
Yeah, Jamal, thank you so much for asking this question. It's a really good question, and it's obviously a question that's on everyone's mind. Let me answer you, like, harkening back to what I said about the history of this effort. So we did not, and I repeat this, we did not set out trying to one-to-one reproduce the hardware, because we don't think that it makes sense in a modern-day production. However, we are all huge fans of the Moogerfoogers, of course, and we have specific affinities to parts of the original Moogerfooger behavior and sounds that we think are endemic to what a Moogerfooger stands for. So while creating the plugins, we incorporated all of those pieces that we think are absolutely critical for something to be called a Moogerfooger. I hope that answers your question. So don't try to say, hey, if I dial this one thing in on the plugins, it's going to be the same as the hardware. I'll tell you, it will not. And that was not the intent. I do want to tie that back to, I mean, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine and some people on the engineering team. There's a lot of great things that happened over the course of history with synthesizers and effects and analog exploration of technology. I can tell you, I sadly never met Bob in person, but we have a few people in the company that have been around since the beginning, including Steve Dunnington, who is our VP of product development, and he actually designed some of the original Moogerfoogers. Bob was not interested in doing the same thing twice. He was always interested in finding ways to take a particular topology, a particular piece of technology, and imagine how it would best be suited to a particular product. So I feel we did something similar by translating this to the software domain.
Gotcha.
Jamal, did that answer your question?
Jamal, let us know in the comments. Also, before we jump into the individual plugins here on the stream, I just want to let everybody know who's coming in a little bit late. One, you should always be on time. Two, we are doing a massive giveaway today thanks to the generosity of Moog, and we're giving away a hardware unit of the Sub-Harmonicon today. To enter to win that, all you need to do is be active in the chat. So I want to see a couple things happen right now. Fire emojis in the chat. And hit the like button just because, I know that's kind of a dead thing, but we like to see the big likes. And with that, by all means, Garrett, go ahead and jump in and show us what's up with this delay. Oh,
let's do that. Yeah, I'm just going to position things here a little bit. So let's set up a little loop here, a little cycle in Logic. And as I said in the beginning, Lisa created this track for us, for the live stream. Finished it yesterday. I've only had a little bit of time, so I'm sort of exploring at the same time as you guys are. So bear with me as I explore with you. So we have this synth solo that is supposed to start here.
So good.
Right? Now, let me bypass the Moogerfoogers.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh my gosh, it's night and day, man. Oh boy.
It just opens everything up so much. It gives you that analog delay goo that like links everything together. Right?
Did she set up that? Did she set all of these up for you?
She set these up, yeah. So that's a pretty incredible gift.
And what was that patch originally? Was that on a Moog? It's that
yes,
synth?
She played. I actually don't know which synth she used. I forgot to ask her. I don't know if she said she would try to join. Maybe if she's in the chat, she can answer. I forgot to ask which Moog she played this on. She's a huge Moog 1 fan, so I wouldn't be surprised that this is a Moog 1 sound. She did another Moog 1 sequence here.
Lisa is in the chat.
Is she?
Yep. She says she's here and she can. Everybody at Lisa, if you got any questions about this project, Lisa, fantastic job. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully we get some.
Yeah,
new
Lisa,
fans
I was
out of
wondering about these 3 tracks. Like, can you just chat to people what instrument you use to play the solo parts in?
Yes, Lisa, please at Plugin Boutique with which synth you use to play those. Those are absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to stop gushing, but I mean, it's phenomenal.
Let's move the 108 out of the way. I'm just going to focus on the 104 for a second. So let's play this again. Maybe zoom in a little bit here. So we have the delay going on here. And she set it up with the modern sound. So that gives you that kind of, it's respectful to the trails of that brighter synth sound. Now if we switch to Legacy, it's going to all darken up. Did you hear that? These are one of the advanced feature examples where you can switch through the different tones of the delay plugin. Another one that is basically a big part of opening the sound up is that the delay can have a ping pong version activated. So let's set it to the original echo version where it's a monophonic feedback. You see everything is sort of centered. Now let's open it up with ping pong. And you can hear that soundscape just open up completely. So what you hear, these little artifacts, they're intended. So they're modeling the actual bucket brigade delay lines, and by switching between echo and ping pong, we're actually shortening, like halving or doubling the delay lines. So you get a speed up as if on the delay you would click on short and long here. So let's explore, see what that does. If I switch between short and long, you hear that?
Yeah.
This basically does an octave shift. which is similar as if you would start like dragging the delay time here. Currently we're time synced, but let's turn time sync off. Sorry. So you can hear that pitch shifting, which is sort of like a signature of analog delays. Let's put time sync back on. So what else do we have here? We have an LFO that is actually very slightly modulating the delay time. We can increase that, right? But having it a little bit here just gives that slight bit of motion. Let's just increase it and then play around with the knobs for a bit. This is one thing that I like to do. You see, you've got this ramp down here, which means that the LFO, if we LFO sync this, now on the time, the tempo of your project will start pitch shifting the material that is going through the delay. See that? Just so much opportunity for creative exploration and just dialing in additional sounds, whether you want to fill in your any type of parts. Without the delay. And with the delay. Cool.
That's amazing. I just wanted to let you know, Lisa has let us know the bass and solos are from the Moog 1 controlling a Mother 32. You called it.
Yes.
You win the Sub-Harmonicon.
I do! Yeah. Yay! Thanks, Lisa, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody go sub to Lisa's channel. I'm sure she posts a lot here on YouTube, I hope. If not, definitely check out the Bandcamp that was shown earlier in the stream. Lisa, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we were just listening to that one loop, and I was not getting tired of it. It's just so good.
Yeah. So let me do something else here. Just if there's any other questions, please feel free to interrupt me. I'm just riffing here. Like I said, I'm discovering this project at the same time. Like I spent a little bit of time with it yesterday in the kitchen, just like playing it through my laptop speakers and trying to find my bearings. But I've not really explored it yet. I have not really explored the sounds yet. So let's do that together.
I've got a good question from David Sada. He's wondering if these parameters can be automated in the DAW.
Everything is DAW automatable. Everything.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So yes, you can do this. Okay, even the ones in the back here, these can all be automated. So you can sort of automate if you switch to mono or ping pong. You have to go through different tones. Everything is automatable. And we actually spent it's an opportunity. Some people don't know about this. Like we spend time giving proper names to each individual parameter and organizing them.
What is that view there? I've never seen that.
See, like a lot of people don't know about this. Most DAWs expose this as a generic plugin view. So if you're not a fan of, some people are not a fan of skeuomorphic. This is called a skeuomorphic UI. Like it looks like a real pedal, right?
Right.
Some people are not fans. That's very valid. But there's always a way to get rid of it. If you look into your DAW, how to get to this generic view, and Ableton has it.
Yeah, Ableton's got its little flip out menu on the device container. Yep. Okay, I didn't know that's what we were looking at there. That makes sense then.
So that is basically Logic's version of this. And this usually is also exactly what you can automate with automation parameters. So pro tip.
Nice. Exclusive. You heard it here first. That's why we do these dev streams.
So let's try something different here, and dive right in, even though I have not even touched the other pedals yet. But one of the things that made the original Moogerfooger so interesting is that you could connect CV in and out of them. And this is actually a difference. The original delay didn't have an LFO CV output. You could only put CV in. However, in the plugin ones, if you click on the CV button or on the back panel where the patch bay is, right? So these do the same thing. it brings you to the back where you can start plugging things in. And it gives you a unique serial number for that instance of the plugin. So we've got a few instantiated. So once I click here, you'll see this huge menu appear. Let me reposition the plugin a little bit. So these are all the instances in my project. I'm working with IGPE here. And so let's go feedback. And I want to find the delay, IGPE, this is the one. And I want to connect the LFO of this delay into itself. And now you can see here on the feedback knob, let me put it into triangle. You can see that the delay feedback is getting modulated by the CV of the pedal itself. I don't know what it's going to sound like. Let's give it a go. You hear the feedback hump?
Yeah, I hear it, yeah.
So this gives you totally new ways of exploring what you can do with these effects. You can batch them in. You can decide how much you want of it. So this is an attenuverter that you can use to sort of like, oh, let's say I only want a smidge of this, right? Like, no, it's only this much. Or you can invert it. You can go downwards if you want to go downwards. That all works. Or if you have a bidirectional source, like an LFO is a bidirectional source, and an envelope is not. But if you have a bidirectional source, you can flip this to bipolar, and now this will oscillate around the position of your knob. Let's have a listen again. And you can sort of, again, hear that feedback come in. Right? Pretty cool. So, that's just first taste of CV connectivity. What you see here is two different type of LEDs that light up. You have the jack that is connected in the CV input. That is the level of the raw CV signal coming in from whatever source it is. In this case, it's from the 104 itself. And then here is the amount that is actually being used by the plugin. So you can sort of have two different types of indicators. And then you also have this arc here that gives you a visualization of what it would be like if you manually move this knob, right? Now, I'm anticipating a question.
We have.
Why would you not?
Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah, let me finish my thought. Why would you not use automation to do this? Well, a really great question. TV is audio rate, so and modulation usually is like host automation parameters is usually not as detailed. The other advantage here is that you don't have to go out to your DAW to figure out how to set this up and to figure out how to send it from one track to the other. So that is kind of a cool thing. I could take the LFO of this 104, so let's disconnect this. And this one is BCJS. Let's try to look for it. I need an assistant, this one. So now I can take the LFO of that track, and you can see it come in here. So now you have one track controlling the other track. So doing that with automation parameters is really hard. It's not impossible, but some DAWs do make it very, very challenging. You might have to use like additional plugins to get there. And this gives you that immediate workflow where you can connect things together. So what you see happening here, I'm just pointing that out. One of the things that Logic does to save CPU usage sometimes is when you have tracks muted and you're not playing them, it will not call the plugin. So that is why this one is now not flickering when the track is not playing. Just pointing that out in case someone was wondering. Cool. You had some other questions, Joshua?
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about control voltage.
Okay.
One is specifically about Reason's CV, if it's compatible with that. And, you know, people are also Ableton CV tools. Is that compatible as well? Like, can it take sources, or is it just in the ecosystem of the Moogerfooger?
It's such a great question. Yes, you can connect it to other CV sources, both digital and analog CV. So if you look here at the options of connectivity, we have sidechain. And so what you can do if you set up your plugin with a sidechain bus input, then you have 2 channels of CV into every plugin that you can use to connect to these CV inputs. I have some examples prepared, but then I realized that in order for you guys to hear the sound, like I have to use a plugin that I insert here. So it would not be possible. But I have examples where this hooks up with CV tools from Ableton. We actually have a demo library video. If you look at Moog's YouTube channel, there's a demo library that shows you exactly how to use Ableton CV tools envelope follower into the CV input of one of the Moogerfoogers. One of the things that I really like, if you're a Bitwig user, Bitwig now has that effects grid where you can basically have access to a modular synthesizer inside Bitwig itself. And this gives you primitives of LFOs, of envelopes, any type of signal that you can imagine, and those perfectly hook up to the Moogerfoogers also. So they very well combine with other digital CV solutions. Now, I'm even more excited that they also work if you have a DC-coupled audio interface that takes DC-coupled audio input. Now, there's not that many out there. The most popular ones are the Expert Sleepers ones, the Eurorack modules. And I've had a lot of fun at home playing around with my Mother 32, generating envelopes going into that audio interface, controlling the Moogerfoogers. It's wild.
I mean, yes. What was the title of that video? I can have Elliot, who's helping me on the chat today, post it in
I don't know it by heart, but if you go to Moog's YouTube channel, it's one of the last demo library videos.
All right. And someone's got a question for Lisa, if she's still around. They're wondering if she's got any tour dates and specifically anything in the UK coming up. People are interested to know, so that's wonderful. If you want to,
Yay!
Yeah, let's keep cracking with this.
Yeah, so don't hesitate to support her. Like she's got all these albums available for purchase. She very much deserves it. So if you can throw her a few bucks her way to support an amazing artist.
Artists need to support each other.
Yeah, always really appreciate it. Okay, so delay here. Remember, I actually bypassed this one. So let's go back to that solo. Let's disconnect this one. Now let's bring in the cluster flux. The cluster flux is a more subtle effect that bypasses delay. You can hear it. It's a chorus. It's set up as a chorus. This is without it. I just move it to the center so you can see the one. And this is with it. It gives that subtle motion of an analog chorus that is spread around the stereo track. Back here. Make it a little bit more obvious. This without. So the cluster flux and the 104 are, I consider them siblings, because they are both built on top of a bucket brigade topology, which is basically how they used to do delay lines. It's like a giant sample and hold circuit with 1024 or even more little circuits connected together that sort of pass on the signal from bucket to bucket. It's like handing it down as if you like hand a bucket to turn a fire off. So they're based on that same topology, but the difference is that the 108, the cluster flux, has much shorter delay times, and so it allows you to dial in those classic flange and chorus sounds in a much more precise way. And it's not as dark. It opens up more than the delay when you go to those delay line lengths. So maybe let's explore. If I just take the flanger. Cool. One other thing I kind of want to explore here because I'm curious. Let's go back to the delay. And just to go back to that question, what are the differences? I'm going to turn off time sync here. And I'm going to go to a frontier that's never been done before or whatever. Like that is something that the originals couldn't do, is go to carpless strong delay lines. So it can dial in those very, very short delay lines with insane feedback if you want. This sort of sorry for having that little feedback happening earlier. But you can get into that really crazy area of harpless strong synthesis, basically. So that's not a big difference. They go much shorter than the original ones. Cool. I think we've sort of explored this section quite a bit. I kind of want to jump over to something completely different. But if there's other questions that I can answer,
let me see if I can pull a couple up while you're switching out. Do the MIDI CC controls match the host automation parameters?
Ah, great question. The plugins don't support MIDI.
The plugins don't support MIDI.
So we set out supporting MIDI initially.
Okay.
It turns out that it's actually really complicated in a lot of DAWs to get an audio effect instantiated and send MIDI to it at the same time. Reaper makes it easy. Logic makes it absolutely hard. You basically have to set it up as an instrument and then pipe in the audio through the sidechain, and then you can control it with MIDI, but then your sidechain is taken up by the audio, so you couldn't do that CV control. So for the time being, doesn't mean it will not be another version or an additional set of plugin types coming out later. For the time being, there's no direct CC control. I personally don't think it's a big deal because every DAW that I know of allows you to tie CCs to automation parameters, which I feel is probably a more flexible way of doing it. But if you have any other ideas around that, feel free to contact us, and then we can take your use case into consideration and see, like, maybe it can inspire us to make them do things that they're not doing yet.
Where can someone, or where's the best place for someone to reach out to Moog?
App support, so app support at moogmusic.com. Let me pull up a plugin. It's actually I don't know if we list the email here, but the plugins have a contact us for help, which basically opens the website and allows you to send us a message. If you just go to moogmusic.com and to contact us, it will get to the right people. But yeah, app support at moogmusic.com. Let's see if I can type that in. Oops. This is it.
All right. There you go. Perhaps, Elliot, if you could type that in the chat just in case people want to copy and paste. That's where people can send their ideas and their complaints and just say how wonderful you were on this stream, correct?
Well, thank you.
You're doing a great job.
Let's look at this one. I was kind of surprised. Let's first hear it in context again. So we've got this amazing kick coming in. Right? Such a nice kick together with the bass here. And Lisa put a Freakbox on here to explore. You hear that?
Oh, yeah.
This is such an incredible effect. It's very much underappreciated. It's one of the original Moogerfoogers that people had a hard time coming to grips with. But if you look at our launch video where Ty Segall makes that song Frog Eats Fly, is that it? Or Frog Meets Fly? He uses this quite a bit. I see it as a pitched distortion mayhem machine. So what it basically does is you have, and this plugin is very close to the original Freakbox. And Steve Dunnington, our current VP of product development, he designed the original one. So I actually had to borrow his Freakbox to be able to have our team work on it in plugin form, which was pretty cool. He had like an unopened Freakbox sitting around that we used to model this one.
Nice.
So what this is we've got an analog modeled oscillator. This oscillator is lifted straight from the Model 15 virtual synthesizer that we made. So it's a pretty powerful oscillator. And let's just turn all of this off. Play it. So now you can hear. So I'm just changing the frequency. And the envelope follower is modulating the amplitude so that you can hear that oscillator play in sync with the signal that is coming in, right? Now I can dial in the waveform I want. Currently it's doing FM modulation. Let's turn that off so that you can hear the raw waveform. Right? Now, if I increase the drive, I will actually feed a stronger signal into the envelope follower. Hear that? So, which is doing a similar thing as if I would change the frequency here, right? Now the second stage here is you can hard sync this VCO to the signal that is coming in. And now you get where all the mayhem's at. So if you dial that in together with the original sound, I just love this effect. So let's add another one here while we're exploring this. I mean, why not? Let's just add a little filter. Now we've got a 101 filter. Switch it to 4-pole, make it a little bit more pronounced. See where we're at here. Oh, we still have quite a lot of kicks left. So what we have going on here now is the Freakbox adding some good amount of freak to the signal. Let's just freak it out a little bit more. And then we've got a filter taming the high end a little bit, but still having some resonance here that is tied to the envelope follower that is inside the 101. And I put in a positive amount so that it's pushing up the cutoff frequency of the 101. And you can hear that resonance sweep go together with the kick. Now I'm curious. Let's revert this. Hear that? That is something the originals couldn't do. I'm going negative with the envelope amount. And now I start at this cutoff frequency level and I'm going down. If I would put this here, then I can go up. Make sense? Cool. Now I want to try something else out, and we're just all exploring here. If you want me to try something out, just let me know. So we've got this 101, which is VCLO, and I want to connect it to the Freakbox. I don't know. Then try the frequency. So what do we have? VCLO. This is one here. Hear that? You can see it here. So now we have the envelope follower of the filter controlling the pitch of the VCO of the Freakbox. It's wild.
It is indeed wild. I love that interconnectivity aspect of these plugins.
It's so inspiring. You never really know what you're gonna get, which is sort of part of the modular flow, right? Like, hey, let's connect this thing to that thing, and then, oh my God, I didn't expect this. It might be horrible, but what often happens then is like you start exploring how you can make it not horrible, and then you get to a domain of sounds that you might never have found if you would sort of try to come up with from a fresh slate.
That's why I think the way you're doing this presentation today is actually perfect, because I feel like that's the essence of the modular workspace, is that exploration and happy accidents and things of that nature. So
yeah, cool. So if there's any other questions, we can go to that, or I can continue with some other Moogerfoogers here.
Someone was wondering where the name Fogger came from.
I have no idea.
All right, fair enough.
I think I think it just sounds good.
Yeah, it does.
You can all probably guess what it doesn't say, right? Right. So it's interesting. There was I tried to stay off of forums and online spaces during launch, because I consider myself an artist, and my team, everyone considers themselves an artist, and like, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit, right? So sometimes when I see people post, it's a little bit like, oh, you hurt my feelings. But anyway, so I tried to stay away, but I did see someone say, well, this is a really childish name. Why did they pick that? And then someone else was like, you do know that this has been around for over 20 years, right? Like, they didn't just make up that name right now. It was pretty funny. But yeah.
Someone, Undermined Audio, is wondering if there's any issues running the analog audio signal into the MF. So MF.
You mean like an analog CV signal coming in? Is that your question, or an audio signal?
I think an audio one. They said, as an example, a guitar.
Oh no, like you can use them in real time. They have no latency. So basically, the latency of your DAW is the latency of the plugins. And I've been playing my Chapman, like I'm learning the Chapman stick at the moment. I suck at it, but I'm still learning it, and I enjoy it a lot. I'm playing my Chapman stick through the delay and through the phaser. Like it's just so much fun. So yeah, like, and someone on our team, Jeff, one of the engineers, his, like, the last couple of weeks before release, like every night he was just playing his electric guitar and posting clips and sending them to our Slack channels. Like, hey, look what I just did in real time with my guitar. So yeah, like, go at it. They're intended to be both able to be used live and in productions.
All right, good to know.
Cool.
I mean, that pretty much has us caught up on questions for the moment.
Awesome. By the way, thanks you all for asking these questions. They are amazing. They're very well considered, and I'm sure a lot of people find them super helpful. So there was this one little thingy, and I actually had to look it up, Lisa. I don't know if you're still here. I didn't know these were crotales. I don't know how you pronounce it, but they were like symbols. And I thought it was interesting what she set up with those symbols. So let's listen to them first. Pretty faint, right? Try to find some more. Right? Just finding that sound. Now what she did was she set up, let's see if I can get this to loop over it. Find another part. Like, I know there's a part where they're a little bit more pronounced, or it might just have been me making it up.
Yeah, in terms of the waveform there, and the very first ones are the biggest ones that I can see visually.
Yeah. See, there's a few more here, but let's focus on this one. What she set up here is the 105. So the 105 is a multi-resonant filter that has animation to it. It's pretty subtle because the input signal is pretty low. But what you can see here is this plugin has 8 filter bands, both in bass and treble, mid frequencies. So they're spread out. And if you use it in stereo, currently it's mono, but if you use it in stereo, see what it does. Can you hear it? Like it spreads it out left, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the bass frequencies on the left side, and you have the mid frequencies on the right side. I'm gonna drive this up some more here. You know what? You guys probably loud enough now. So what you have here is, if I set it to this one, we basically have an equalizer.
That actually got really loud for some reason, if you want to turn it down just a tad.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of the difficulty with this pedal. The original also had that. So what you have is really 8 different filters that are like combined and summed together to create the final sound. So as you start stacking them, it can get loud. So this is the one pedal that sounds by default a little bit lower than the other ones. But that's because you can have these 8 filters stack on top of each other. So once we're here, what we can then do is, what if these frequencies here, so I just moved these up and down manually. What if these individual filter bands are turned off with a pattern? So pattern 1, that's why you see this here, animation is disabled. Pattern 1 allows you to use it as an equalizer. And if you switch it to pattern 2, now you have a pattern editor, or you can use the built-in patterns where as it steps through the steps, you have the individual bands that start getting activated, and you can go in and edit it yourself and like add different steps to it. But let's listen to this pattern first. And you can dial in the envelope. So you hear, now it's basically stepping through these filter bands based on the tempo of your project and giving that animation in the background. There's some things you can do, is like making the peak a little bit more pronounced. This was not in the original. Or you can have different envelopes that you can dial in. The envelopes here are basically, there's 32 predefined envelopes that it morphs between. So as you try to find what works for you, it's kind of good to sort of go in and see, okay, which one corresponds to the movement that I want to create. Right? And now I can still go in and say, well, actually, this band, I don't want it to have as loud. This band, I also want it quiet. So you can still tweak what the tonal makeup is of what is being animated by this pattern.
That is such a cool effects plugin.
It's so inspiring. Once you get started with it, it's sort of super addictive. So let's see here. We have 775 in the bass frequency, right? Which is here. So let's just... So you hear this one. Hear it? That is that resonant filter that is now being animated on each step. So each step will trigger that envelope. And based on the attack and decay settings in this morphable envelope knob, you get the animation that corresponds in sync with your project tempo based on what you've dialed in here. Now, that is just the beginning. What you can then do, and let's try another pattern. Like, I don't know them all by heart, but look, this is kind of a wild pattern. But there's one, and I think it is
so cool.
Going back to the Sub-Harmonicon. Let's see if I can find that one.
Speaking of the Sub-Harmonicon.
Yes, so this one here. This is actually a polyrhythmic pattern where the length of each frequency band is one more than the previous one. See that? So 1.8K will be on every step. 1.2K will be on every other step. 775K will be 1 out of 3, and so on. So you can dial in polyrhythmical filter envelope sweeps, or whatever you call it, based on this pattern editor. So the original MuRF had an external editor you could connect over MIDI and like use that on the computer. We've built that in here, so you basically can just tweak at your heart's content.
I got a good question here from Mike Day, and obviously the patterns there are presets, but they're wondering if there are maybe higher level presets with the Moogerfooger plugins.
Yes. So let me just prefix that. The patterns here on the knobs, if you select the knob number here, you will get the original pattern that was inside the original MuRF, right? And just to highlight that, you can still edit them. So even though there's presets, you can make any pattern you want. Just getting that out of the way. You can set any length you want by right-clicking or left-clicking to toggle on and off, right? So yes, we have presets. Look at all these presets. So each plugin has between 20 and 30 presets, off of which a lot were created by Lisa, by the way. So Lisa spent many months with these plugins, made her album that is currently the first album on her Bandcamp page, and a lot of the sounds she made for that album ended up becoming presets in the plugins.
Nice.
We have like these factory presets. Some people don't like to use factory presets, so we came up with this. Like, I thought this was such a clever idea that our designer came up with, Steven Petoniak, where what if we just add a little switch where you can show or hide factory presets? And that sort of solves the whole problem of multiple menus with different type of users and factory presets. I always get lost. Here's like, if you want factory presets, they're right here. You know which ones they are. They have a little F. And if you don't, then you can only see your own custom presets.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I like that a lot. So what else have we got here in, this, I do want to point this out. It's a detail, but I love it. You see the circuit board in the back of each? Those are the real ones.
Oh, wow, really?
So yes. So we actually went in and spent like 2 days opening up each Moogerfooger, setting them up with great lighting, and took the picture of the inside of the Moogerfooger. And one of my favorite things here is sort of looking at the history. Like if you look at the 101, it's the first one, you can see how sparse the board was. It's just a filter. But then if you look at the like 105, oh my God, it's like super populated. And then like if you go to the 108, like there's so much going on here, right? So it's kind of fascinating to take this walk through time as you look at the circuit boards when you go to the advanced settings. So yeah, it's just
that's a great detail. I didn't know those are the actual, but that's cool to know. Cedric has a good question about the MuRF, and that is there a maximum number of steps that you can have?
Yeah, thanks, Cedric. That's a really good question. There's 64.
That's a lot of
steps. So you can go up to 64, yeah. Let me continue with the preset discussion because I tend to just get sucked into sound exploration, so I don't use presets that much. Even though I made quite a few here, and everyone in our team made quite a few. You can also find, like, if you go dig up the original manuals, we did put the original presets that were written out in the original manuals in here with settings that correspond. So we actually went through and tried them all out. You have these little navigation buttons, obviously, right? But then what else you got here is this little switch, and people often wonder what it's about. And it's a compare switch. What it does is, let's say I loaded this sound. I have no idea what it will be like. Let's maybe switch to, well, no, just stay in here. What am I doing? Okay. So I've tweaked this, right? And now, instead of having A-B where you switch between two presets, what it does, it temporarily shows what the last preset was that you loaded. So you can go back, and it's also the last preset that was loaded from your DAW session. So if you load up a session and you want to continue tweaking and you want to compare it with what it was when you saved your session, you can just toggle here. So I think that's a really cool feature.
It's like an A-B,
then what else?
yeah?
It's like an A-B, except that you can't change the B. the B is always going to be what was last saved. So you have only one thing that you're tweaking. Personally, when I have an A-B preset system, I always get lost. I never remember which one was which. Like I just tweak and then it's like, was B the original one, or did I already switch to B and was it A? Like I get lost. So we decided to do it this way. There's some other plugins that do that. Metric Halo is not very well known, but they have plugins that have the same thing. So it's a different way of doing it. I think it makes the workflow a little bit smoother. Because you always know
when you bounce audio, a lot of people are don't like to bounce audio because they think they might want to go back, and sometimes that's like the dark hole that like you just keep going back and then you're never satisfied. So I kind of having the sort of limitation is actually helping creativity in the end. I dig it. Totally agree.
So we have this little drop-down menu here. You can call up the init preset, which is what it will be at when you instantiate the plugin. You can save it in your own custom name. And this is one of my favorites, actually, is you can save the preset to your desktop. So I can do export state and just save it here. And now let me just call up this other preset. And I have this preset here. I can actually drag and drop on it, and it will load that file. So if you have a cool thing you dialed in and want to share it with a friend, you can use the presets of the plugins independent of the DAW that you're using. So imagine someone, because you can use Logic's like save preset functionality, but then there will be Logic presets, right? Someone else using another DAW, they will not be able to load it. Using this system, you can actually have any preset you create you want to share with a friend, you can export it out, export the state, and then send that file over, and they can drag and drop it on their plugin and have them exactly the same way, even in another DAW. I think it's pretty fun.
Lovely stuff.
So that is sort of the MuRF. There's so much to dive in here. I kind of want to explore a little bit, like just another 5 minutes on the MuRF, and I want to try something out.
Okay.
So let's slow this down. So the MuRF also has an LFO that is not as pronounced in the original. So what we did was, in the CV inputs, you can connect a DC coupled signal, which is a DC coupled signal is basically, you can imagine, you can think of it as like 10 on the amplifier scale. It's just like a full-blown signal doing as much as it possibly can, right? So if I dial this in, I can actually increase the LFO amount. And now you hear the LFO come in and out. You hear it? So what the LFO does, it will sweep again over all these filter bands based on the speed, and the speed of the LFO is linked to the rate here. Hear it? So this is sort of another example of a neat little feature that's that DC input. Now, why did I want to bring this out? Not only is this, you can use this as an additional knob, so now I have an additional knob to dial in the LFO amount, but this knob can be automated in your DAW. So if you look back at that controls list here, and I scroll down, here, CV LFO amount, right? Which is this knob. You can MIDI map the knob and then use a foot pedal with it if you want, like a MIDI foot pedal. And then you can control the plugins in real time with your foot pedal as if you would be plugging in an analog foot pedal in the original analog pedals, which was a very popular way of using them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
No, that was a lot.
And not only does it make sense, but it sounds amazing.
So cool. That was the 105. Little call out here, if you see these little chain thingies, that is, if you're passionate about gain staging, some people are, you can just click this and it will automatically reduce the output or increase it based on the input so that you don't accidentally overdrive your gain staging. Just a tiny little detail.
It's an important detail. It's great that it's there.
Cool. let's see what else we got. I kind of got carried away with that one. The MuRF is so much
By
fun.
all means, keep getting carried away. I think we're all loving it. For everyone who's just tuning in, coming in a little bit late, we're here with Moog and Garrett Bevin, who was the lead in making the Moogerfooger VSTs that just came out recently. We are doing a couple of giveaways today. The big one is the Sub-Harmonicon analog unit will be given away today to one random and very lucky person. To win that, all you need to do is be active and positive in the chat, and you'll be entered to win. It's that simple. Keep the questions coming at Plugin Boutique with those, and of course, give us a like, give us a share. Let other people know we're doing these, because we want to spread the word. We want to get people informed about all the best plugins that are coming out right here on Plugin Boutique YouTube channel.
Just filling in on the giveaway. There's also a couple of plugin bundles, right?
There is. Yep. We're doing a couple of a few people are going to win and walk away from this stream very, very happy. A few people are going to win the full Moogerfooger Effects bundle, and then someone else is going to win that Sub-Harmonicon. Do you think you could pull up the website Sub-Harmonicon? I don't have a picture loaded here, and I think it'd be great for people to actually see it. The website, by the way, is fantastic.
Thank you. Sub-Harmonicon, here we go. Look at this beauty.
Look at it. It just looks so good. Whoever took those pictures, bravo.
Yeah, we've got such an amazingly talented team of people. It's very humbling to be here at the factory. I made a decision almost 3 years ago to move here from Belgium, and I'm so happy I did. Even though I was working remotely for a long time, everyone here is just so talented, including our photographers and content creators.
I agree with that sentiment. Everybody here at the Plugin Boutique community, there's nobody that isn't awesome on the team. So shout out to the Moog team. Shout out to the Plugin Boutique team. Shout out to the Plugin Boutique community. Everybody here, everybody who came here from Moog, welcome. This is how we do it. Big shouts out to literally everybody. I think everybody deserves it.
So I kind of want to, it's good that you bring this up. So if you look at the Sub-Harmonicon, and we just did the MuRF, right? It's sort of got similarities. Instead of having faders, you actually have knobs. Mm-hmm. And you can sort of dial in either rhythmical aspects or tonal aspects, and sort of like do similar things, but you have 3 tracks going on independently. So it's kind of cool. And then you can direct to different, like in sequences that can have different influences, and then have 2 VCOs and like a full modular patch bay. Yeah, so you can win this one. It's very inspiring.
Very, very cool.
So let's now look at one of the like ugly ducklings that most people have a hard time with. So, the ring modulator. So
I like what it's doing there. I think that's pretty great.
Let me see. It actually is. But this is what people know
there's
from
that ring,
right? So if you've never used a ring modulator before, and I have to admit, I wasn't a big fan either before we embarked on this epic journey of making the Moogerfooger plugins. It's actually a fairly simple effect, and if you don't mind, I'm quickly going to sort of talk you through it, because I think it will inspire people in how they can use a ring modulator. So let me just dial this in a little bit. So you can hear it now. It's basically a tremolo, right? This without it.
It's really opening up the stereo sound as well.
Yeah, and that's also because, let me just put it in mono. That's a new feature that the original didn't have. So currently, this is what the original would do, right? Like you have a ring modulator. You hear the tremolo? Without it?
I also like you turning it off at the right time. I think it sounded absolutely rad.
So now, one of the things we can do is having the carrier oscillator, and I was so happy when we found that out. So we've got this LFO that is modulating the amplitude, so making that tremolo effect of the original signal. But if we put it in panning mode, now the left and right channel of the LFO will be phase reversed. So now you get that stereo field opening up. It's still doing tremolo, but left and right are 180 degrees apart from each other in terms of phase relationship. So you get that massive spread, and then you can dial the original signal back in again. And now you have still that punch of the bass in the middle, but you have this motion going left and right, and you're like, what is going on? That's without it. This with it.
So,
and then obviously, so yeah, go ahead.
In the beginning example, you actually had it on, what was it, reverse? So would the reverse just switch the polarity of those?
Yeah, so in panning, right will be 180 degree reversed, reverse left will be 180 degree reversed.
Okay, yeah, I can hear it when you,
So it sort of, it changes the direction of the motion as it goes from left to right in your ears. So now sort of like, it's sort of twisting to the other side. And then, so that is like the basic use of a ring modulator, where you use it for tremolo. Now you can put it on high frequency, and you can get all these weird... Like, I really like, one of my favorite things, like obviously everyone has just a blast with these plugins and figuring out different ways. What I like doing is get these crazy like Freakbox and ring modulator sound coming in, and then just dialing in a little bit in the back. And now you've got this weird like sci-fi distortion effects going on while you have this powerful bass, and they're perfectly related to each other. But it's, what is, again, like, oh, I don't know where this is coming from. You can switch it to a different wave shape for the LFO. You can see this is like a little bit edgier because it's like a pulse wave. I'll go back to sine wave. Go back to tremolo. And then again, obviously we have all these CV connections. I mean, which one is that? NDOI. Let's this one. Look at that. Now we've got the frequency of the carrier oscillator is being modulated by the LFO. And then you get this. Go back here. You hear? There's frequency going on. This is without it. I'm not dialing that in. So I really like dialing these additional rhythmical effects that you can get by like syncing LFOs to the beat of your tempo and then connecting CV to unexpected like destinations, and then you have these additional motions going on that are perfectly in sync with whatever the material is, but still fill in that space that is available to use. So yeah, that's the ring modulator.
I love that there was no real ringing going. I think it's again with the marketing. I feel like it's just the wrong name. I feel like there's a better name. We were talking about that yesterday with Tom Longabaugh from Eventide, who spoke very highly of you, by the way, about the name presets and like how they get kind of a bad rap. But I was saying or postulating that if we just called them starting points or something along that line, they'd be more, embraced as they're not meant to be the end all be all. So
or inspirations. Right.
Yeah, I really like that you took the ring mod and then, used it on a bass to the
Yep.
effect of making a raspy, character-driven, full, rich bass tone out of a bass using a ring modulator. Because I think a lot of people just hearing the name ring, you know, like a kind of a tingy sound in the head. But I mean, it's quite versatile in the end, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, you can get to those sounds if you want. Like if I switch it to high and then go here, right? You can do that. You don't have to. Cool. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, Eventide guys are amazing. Like we worked together on the Moog 1, and they supplied a few of the effects that are in the Moog 1 that just like complemented so well. Their reverbs just give it that like spatial, out of this world characteristic that, I mean, I think brought the Moog 1 to the whole other level.
Nice. We just did a full-on developer stream with Eventide yesterday. For those who didn't know or weren't here, that's archived on the Plugin Boutique YouTube channel if you want to check it out. Highly suggest you do. Matt Longabaugh is the director of plugin development over there and did a fantastic job. And just like you, Garrett, went through a bunch of different plugins from Eventide. So definitely check it out if you're interested.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. I didn't even know it was there. No, I want to go and watch it. So, we did the 101, we did the 102, we did the 104, the 105, the 106. We actually, the only one we didn't do yet was the phaser, right? So, we've got this hi-hat track here, and let's just focus on that. There you go. So this is one of the unique things about the Moogerfooger phaser, is that you can set the rate to 0 and then manually sweep the phaser. And why is this so interesting is that it actually also translates to the CV inputs. And I could have like, so now I can have a foot pedal and do the phasing myself, if you imagine that that knob would be MIDI controlled. Right? But you can obviously also use it as a phaser where it sweeps itself. So 6 stage, 12 stage. The phaser in the 12 stage, and if you crank up the resonance, we don't have a lot of volume coming in here, but be careful because it can really like let loose. So that's one way of using it. One of my favorite things is, let's see if I find a preset. I might not find it right away. Let me just dial it in. This is without. Actually, let me. The level is a little bit low. Without. It's just like a hi-hat, perfectly centered. But now, you don't have a real obvious phasing effect going on, but there is one. You have the LFO in the advanced settings. It's also not possible on the original ones. You can have the LFO being stereo. And now the phasing is happening in the stereo field and not right in front. So you still have that hi-hat in the middle, but you have this weird thing like in the stereo field, like it's moving. Listen to it.
Yeah.
It's very slowly moving, and even if you put it to almost nothing, you're like, why is this stereo? Like almost barely can hear it. So I love this because it's like a very subtle way of opening things up without like putting it right in front of you that something is moving left and right in the stereo field. Right? This is without the phaser. This is with it. And then you can like doing obvious phasing effects. Oh, this might be a good one for people. Like, why is there no mix knob on the phaser? Because if you don't phase, you don't need a mix knob. So basically the amount of the LFO here is sort of like the mix knob. So you can use it just without the LFO as a sound sculpting tool. And that's that. That's the phaser.
I think you touched on a really key point, you know, when you brought the, well, it'd be the amount in this case way down, where it was just adding that very subtle bit to the left and the right field. It's those little bits of ear candy that really help separate kind of generic music, I think, from the more impassioned sort of like full-on tracks. In my opinion, it's the little bits. That's what when I listen to it, it's almost like, even in techno, it's always the one synth hit that happens every once in a while that I'm just like, that's it. And it's just, if you add that sort of thing, obviously don't overdo it, but just adding that subtle bit of variation and variety, and I would say character to your tracks, using something like the Moogerfooger phaser is just it just brings it to that next level.
I totally agree. I get lost in those tiny little details, both on the production and on the development side. It's like we found this dither algorithm. I don't know if you guys know this. This is a guy called Air Windows. He makes open source plugins without a UI. He didn't used to be open source, but he open sourced them a few years ago, and he has this Patreon channel. Like, do check it out, Air Windows. He has these very opinionated, specific plugins that do very interesting sonic things. And he discovered a way of doing dithering in the floating point realm. This is getting geeky, but like dithering is a way to add noise to a digital sound signal so that you don't have the steppy, like weird digital artifacts, but noise that takes over, and it sounds more pleasing to the human ear. And he figured out a way of doing dithering in the floating point domain, where people usually think that you don't need dithering, but then he proved why you do. And when we evaluated his algorithm and put that into the plugins, I was like, wow, it adds just that tiny amount of detail that does open it up once you start stacking them. It like gives that little amount of space that they need. Yeah, like I'm all about it. I'm all about those tiny details.
Oh, you said it was, what is it, open windows or clear window? What is it?
Air Windows,
which is an awesome name. Is that the name of the artist or the project?
That's the name of his company.
Okay.
His name is Chris. So Air Windows. If you're interested, like, I love the guy. If you're interested in DSP, he has these live streams where he codes for hours, and you can sort of see him create his plugins in code.
Maybe we'll have him on the dev stream for the ultimate.
Oh, do it! Yeah, he's like, and super smart guy, like very passionate. I discovered him over 10 years ago when I was mixing an album of one of my bands, and he already was doing dither back then. And the dithering algorithms that he had back then, like he had a vinyl dither that I loved so much. And then he decided that he would just go open source and have a Patreon where people would support his efforts and his sort of meanderings and explorations in DSP.
What a
and
legend.
You can follow him. Yes, totally. So yeah, check him out. Like, it's very well worth some attention. Cool. And very opinionated also. I like people that are opinionated. He's just like, I don't make a UI. If you want a fancy UI, I'm not doing it. Like, I can't spend my time on that. I'm interested in DSP. That's what I do.
It's brilliant. That's why it's open source. If you want it, go do it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm sort of getting at the end of what I was planning to demo, but I'm totally open with lingering around, answering questions, demoing specific things if people want to hear them.
I've got a pretty good question here from, let me see who. Okay, actually, two people have asked a very similar question. And it's, can you input a precise value? Like in some plugins, if you double click, you can put in a value. I know that you can do that in the non-UI, non-GUI
Right.
mode. But in this mode here, is that a possibility?
Not at this point. We keep going back and forth with that.
This actually brings me to my follow-up question about it, which is with these types of plugins, I feel like the specific value is not the way to go. I feel like it's just what does it feel like? What does it sound like? And that's where you decide if it's in the right position or not.
Yeah, that's why we keep going back and forth with this. I used to be a numeric guy, very much so. I used to type all the values in. And it was when I started doing modular stuff where you can, actually analog modular where you can't, right? I started experiencing how liberating it actually is, because now I was not using my eyes, but I was using my ears, and I was not using my mind, but I was using my feelings. And the Moogerfoogers are sort of more positioned in that category where, like you said so well, like you explore until you find something that inspires you. Now, we did initially on Animoog Z, we didn't have any values either. You still can't type them in, but you can see them appear. We're considering maybe at one point adding it to the Moogerfoogers as a setting if you do want to go that route. But I can't guarantee that it will happen. We're still exploring that. But it's a very good question. I do recognize that some people love working that way.
Well, I mean, you can always just go into that the editor mode, right?
Yeah, you can always go into controls and type it in here, right? Set it to 7.
JPAV91 is wondering, is the phaser able to do stereo spacing?
Yes. So the phaser here, so we're currently in main output mode. Well, let's listen to it, right? Might not be the best material for that, though. Oh. There we go. That's why I wasn't doing anything. So now it's stereo spacing. The way it works is, so the main output is a traditional phaser, right? Where you have the dips of the all-pass filters sort of cascading on top of each other and creating those notches going downwards that create the typical phaser sound as they moved around. The aux output, which the original also had, does the opposite, where it basically uses that signal and it substitutes it from the original, and now you get peaks instead of dips. So it's a different way of doing a stereo field with a phaser, but it does make interesting motion happening, where the left and the right side are related, but they're not the same signal. And then you can switch it around to the opposite side. And if you want, you can put the LFO in stereo, and it's like another stereo motion that you can add there. That's that.
Lisa Belladonna is saying that everybody should be sure to check out the Moog music page, where the Moogerfooger series has been put on a wide variety of different types of audio, including electronic, acoustic, and Moog tracks. So that's a very good, very good shout right there, right?
So if you go here to Moog Music, then software, Moogerfooger plugins. And here we've got, if you scroll to the right, like a whole set of tracks, and then it can link you to the SoundCloud also. And Lisa created like these beautiful pieces that highlight them really well. You should also check out Ty Segal's video if you haven't yet. Like, he's having so much fun with these plugins.
That's a cool picture too.
Yeah. Look at them. Cool.
Well, this has been absolutely fantastic and absolutely enlightening. I think everybody who has watched.
I want to thank everyone on the stream for asking such good questions. I think you were amazing and made this live stream very easy for me.
You made it easy for us, and Lisa as well. Big shout to you for turning around such an incredible track in such a short period of time just for us to use on this stream. Definitely check out Lisa Belladonna's music. Support if you can, whether that's a like, a share, or it's the Patreon or the Basecamp or Bandcamp rather. Absolutely phenomenal. This whole stream has been just great, and I'm excited that it's about time to go ahead and give some stuff away. Garrett, what do you think?
Yay! Let's do it.
All right, so this is your last opportunity to possibly get your name entered into this drawing. Just say thanks to Garrett, thanks to Lisa, thanks to Moog, thanks to everybody involved for making this happen, and we're gonna pick some winners. So Garrett, the way this works is I get fed a list of 10 names, all right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to ask you your 3 favorite numbers between 1 and 10.
Okay.
The first 2 lucky people will win the Moogerfooger Effects suite of plugins.
Okay. And
then the final number, the person associated with that number, will get that beautiful Sub-Harmonicon. So let's wait a second, just because I told everybody to go ahead and now the comments are rolling in.
Woo!
Don't be afraid to hit that like button as well while you're doing all this. But yeah, seriously, Garrett, beyond me saying your name wrong, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Same.
The demo was incredible. I think the way you conducted it by exploring, I think that's exactly the right way to approach this with these plugins. I mean, and your knowledge on the topics have just been outstanding. So thank you very, very much for doing this with us.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this and for making it so easy and flawless. Like, you guys should know, like, Joshua spends a lot of time preparing. We had rehearsals and we set up he had a technical sheet that makes this super easy.
I'm trying to be a dev. I'm trying to be a developer. I've developed these live streams. All right, everybody, the names are in. Let me just go ahead. What I'm going to do is copy these names. I'm going to bring them over here into a document. All right, so I need 2 numbers between 1 and 10 for the 2 lucky people who are going to win the Moogerfooger Effects Suite. Everybody, this is the full suite. This is all 7 of these incredible plugins. So go ahead, Garrett. What do you think?
4 and 2.
4 and 2. Very quick. All right.
You don't know why 4 and 2, right? It's 42. Like Douglas Adams, it's the answer to everything. It's the number 42. Anyway, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Sorry.
No. That's a good shout. That's a good shout. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Should I announce these winners first and then do the next one?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it. Okay, so drum roll, please. I don't have that sound effect. I keep saying I need it. I need more buttons on my thing. Hold on. Let's do it.
Yeah, do
it. Brendan Theaters and Guitar Tommy. Congratulations.
Woo! Congratulations. Let us know how you like them and if you have any questions.
Brendan Theaters and Guitar Tommy, you are the proud owners of the new Moogerfooger Effects Bundle VST set. You, too, and the next person called, please email support@pluginboutique.com with your name, what you've won, and a picture of you logged into your YouTube account with that name so we can verify it's you, and we're going to get you sorted out. And what do you think for the Sub-Harmonicon winner? One. Number 1. Oh, this person's going to be pumped. Oh. It was someone who just got a question asked and answered on stream. So
it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The winner of the Sub-Harmonicon graciously. Yes. Yeah.
I kind of want to kick. I want to kick with that too. Yeah.
All right.
Do it.
The winner of the Sub-Harmonicon from Moog is Cedric Mialaret.
Woo!
Cedric Mialaret. That's CEDRICMIALARET. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
So
And let us know what you make with it. Kind of
absolutely. At
see and hear the things.
once you do something at Plugin Boutique, at Moog, we definitely want to hear you making great music with this incredible piece of software. And the same with the people who won these VSTs. Oh, I just said software, hardware. Sorry. So Cedric, same deal. Please email support at pluginboutique.com. If you're in the chat, give me a little at Plugin Boutique right now so we can see that you're here. There are some just terms and conditions that everybody Cedric should be aware of in the video description, but hopefully we'll be able to get you sorted here. And that's it. That was a really, really fun and informative live stream. Thank you very, very much. And actually, you know what? Just real quick before I let you go, can you tell me about your backdrop there? What's going on the wall behind you?
I made this for the stream. Oh, sorry. The backdrop here in physical world?
Yes, in the real world.
Ooh, yeah. Well, this is a whole collection. This is a tower of Mother 32s. This is a tower of DFAMs. Some more of those all around. And so what we do is so we're here in the Moog Sound Studio, which is a building that is right next door to the main factory. And this is, you can hear it, like I'm just using my laptop microphone, which is kind of insane. But this room is fully treated. It's a full-blown studio. We've got mixing consoles, we've got microphones and all the things. And what we used to do before COVID, and we're starting it up again, is bring in artists in here and do a residency where they reimagine some of their songs just with Moog gear. And these are often used, like I can't see what I'm doing, but like you can see, like there's a bunch of synthesizers on this end, some very old synthesizers also, and then we've got a bunch of other synthesizers on this end, and then we've got a whole bunch of other stuff stashed away in the cabinets that people can use to explore the Moog synthesizers and reimagine their music as we record it.
Is there a couch in there that I can live in there, or?
Well, we've got a couch outside of the studio, and we have a bar, and we have like all the cool shit.
They got a bar. Hey, Garrett, if you're still listening, they have a bar. That sounds great. I mean, that room looks amazing. I'm sure it sounds amazing as well. I think that idea of reimagining tracks with only Moog gear is an absolute. Is there any video archives of that from before?
Oh yeah, if you go to the Moog YouTube, try to pull it up. Let's see.
I'm gonna flip back to the desktop.
Oh, this is the Moogerfooger Ty Segal video. But if you go to the playlists here, I've not prepared this, but I know that we have, this is the demo library, but then we have somewhere here, these are the other Moog.
It's a lot of videos.
We have a lot of videos. They're in here. If you look through them, we've got a bunch of artists that recorded this in this space. Maybe Synthesize Live? I don't know what they categorize it on. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. Anyway, you'll find it here, and I'm sorry I can't directly link to it. This is unplanned.
Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a small technical difficulty.
Sound Lab.
There
we go.
Oh, I'm back.
Are we back?
My alarm went off. I got an important.
So this is the Moog Sound Lab. That's where you'll find all these videos, and these are recorded here. And you can. This one, for instance, is about the Moog vocoder, and check this one out. Conveyor. It's actually one of my favorite songs. But we've got all these videos here. Look at this playlist.
That's a lot.
All these were recorded here. Churches came through.
Where are you located?
If you go on, so it's the Moog Sound Lab playlist on the Moog Music.
No,
YouTube.
where are you, Moog, located?
Oh, in Asheville, North Carolina, in the United States.
North Carolina.
Yeah, we're up in the mountains.
All right. Well, I'll expect my invitation to the next gala, and I will definitely be there to check all this
Cool.
stuff out.
Well, let's have a beer at the bar together.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. All right. Well, with that, I will let you go. I know you're a busy person.
Thanks so much. This was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks to you. Send our, thanks and well wishes to everybody at the company. I think this was a smashing success. Thanks for everybody who tuned in, was positive and active in the chat. We're doing this again next Thursday on that super secret stream that starts at 8 p.m. UK time, and we do these pretty much every week now. Let me know in the comments who else you want to have on the stream, and we'll try to reach out and make that happen. But in the meantime, thanks to Garrett,
Thanks, everyone.
Moog, everybody, Elliot in the chat. We'll let you all get to what you got to get to, and we will see you in the next stream. Bye-bye.
Bye.
To the top, ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call me international. When me ride palm with them in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm with them and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamal skinny. We are the general. We sit up on the rhythm and open the mic incredible. I'm be right part of the rhythm, move with the rhythm, I sit down steady. Every ragamuffin you do, I feel rock and follow me. Jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it. We chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. International, what they call we international. When we ride